Amazon Hunger Games shoppers. I'm Suzanne Collins, and I'm so thrilled that the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is being published around the globe today. To kick things off, I wanted to share a passage from the new book with you. Chapter 3. The peacekeeper moved on to the second car and released the chains. The door slid open, revealing Jessup, the male District 12 tribute, squinting into the brightly lit station. Coriolanus felt a jolt run through him, and his body straightened in anticipation. Surely she would be with him. Jessup hopped stiffly to the ground and turned back to the train. Lucy Gray Baird stepped into the light, her cuffed hands half covering her eyes as they adjusted. Jessup reached up his arms and his wrists spread as wide as the chain on his restraints would allow, and she fell forward, letting him catch her by the waist and swing her to the ground in a surprisingly graceful move. She patted the boy's sleeve in thanks and tilted her head back to drink in the sunlight streaming into the station. Her fingers began combing through her curls, untangling the knots and picking out bits of straw. Coriolanus's attention turned for a moment to the peacekeepers, who were hollering threats into the train car. When he gazed back, Lucy Gray was staring directly at him. He started a bit, but then remembered that he was the only one on the platform besides the peacekeepers. The soldiers were cursing now as they hoisted one of their number into the train car to retrieve the reluctant tributes. It was now or never. He crossed to Lucy Gray, extended the rose, and gave a small nod. "Welcome to the capital," he said. His voice was slightly gravelly, as he had not spoken for hours, but he thought it gave him a nice maturity. The girl sized him up, and for a minute he feared she was going to either walk away or, worse, laugh at him. Instead, she reached out and delicately plucked a petal from the flower in his hand. "When I was little, they used to bathe me in buttermilk and rose petals," she said in a manner that, despite the unlikeliness of her claim, seemed totally believable. She ran her thumb over the glossy white surface and slipped the petal into her mouth, closing her eyes to savor the flavor. "Tastes like bedtime." Coriolanus took the moment to examine her. She looked different than she had at the reaping. Except for flecks here and there, the makeup had been wiped away, and without it she appeared younger. Her lips were chapped, her hair loose, her rainbow dress dusty and rumpled. The mark from the mare's blow had turned to a deep purple bruise. There was something else, too. He again had the impression that he was witnessing a performance, but a private one this time. When she opened her eyes, she trained all her attention on him. "You don't look like you should be here." "I probably shouldn't be," he admitted, "but I'm your mentor, and I wanted to meet you on my own terms, not the game makers." "Ah, a rebel," she said. That word was poison in the mouths of capital citizens, but she had said it approvingly, like a compliment. Or was she mocking him? He remembered she carried snakes in her pocket, and the usual rules didn't apply to her. "And what does my mentor do for me besides bring me roses?" she asked. "I do my best to take care of you," he said. She glanced over her shoulder, where the peacekeepers were tossing two half-starved children onto the platform. The girl broke a front tooth on the platform, while the boy received several sharp kicks on landing. Lucy Gray smiled up at Coriolanus. "Well, good luck, gorgeous," she said, and walked back to Jessup, leaving him and his rose behind.
Hey guys, I'm Natalie, and this is a review of the Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is a Hunger Games book. It's actually the prequel to all of the Hunger Games books, and I've read almost all the Hunger Games books, and this one has been really Really great as well. As a prequel, it goes back to when President Snow, if you've seen any of the Hunger Games, President Snow, when he was in school before going to university, and kind of talks about how the Hunger Games begin, gives a lot of background, talks about how he was a mentor and just his whole story and journey at the beginning of the Hunger Games. So you get a lot of background on how the Hunger Games start. You get an amazing story. It's obviously a very thick novel, but it was super easy for me to read and go through. I just got lost in it, and I really, really loved it. Gives a lot. If you've seen the movie, this gives way more details and background. Susan Collins is great. I love the Hunger Games series, so this was another great read that I added.
This is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This I actually just purchased, and I'm so happy I did. I did not realize that there was a prequel to the Hunger Games until I saw the trailer. And so this is the first, supposed to be before the Hunger Games, like that particular series. And so it is actually like before President Snow is really anything. It's like back when he was just trying to make a name for himself, and it was like the 10th Hunger Games that they've had. So I'm so excited to read this. It's just gonna be amazing. The pages are like nice and thick, and then just everything has the beautiful, so if you decide to take the dust jacket off, it still says what it is and has really beautiful embossed gold. So very excited, and great quality book. Definitely going to read this one.
This is the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. We got the hard copy here, already took the plastic sleeve off. If you're a Hunger Games fan, I hope you are excited to read this. Maybe you're coming after the new trailer is out. It looks amazing. But let's get into the book. I'm not going to tell you what the book is about. That's for you to read. If you're like me, you actually like having a physical book. And sometimes these books can be really small font, or they might not open all the way. So let me give you a brief overview of what the book feels and looks like. So classic size for the hardcover here. Flipping the book open. Font size, very nice. I would say it's slightly larger than a normal font, so it's very easy on the eyes, really easy to read. The indentation is nice. It's not too far into the book. Also, page numbers are at the bottom, so the text actually doesn't go all the way to the bottom of the page. It's a thick book, but easily holdable still with one hand. It's over 500 pages, so as you can see right there, very thick, 517 pages. Overall, great feel and an even better read.
Hello! Today I have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins with me. This book was so incredibly well written. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games series. This follows Coriolanus Snow as he was younger when the games were kind of first starting. This is the story of the 10th Hunger Games, though it is more focused on Snow himself as he is the main character. Snow is trying to prove himself as worthy of his name and not make it seem like the war hit his family as hard as it did. He is a very proud man. He is hoping to get a massive scholarship that will allow him to continue his education, but in order to get that scholarship, he learns that he will need to be a mentor to one of the tributes in the 10th Hunger Games, and the best way to get attention for that scholarship is to win. I think that this is an incredible origin story for Snow. It shows you just how twisted his mind is. You're inside his head, so you get to see his thought process and how he rationalizes things with himself to make it seem like it's not as bad as it actually is. Overall, I highly recommend this book, especially to any Hunger Games fans that are looking for more. It is incredibly well written, pretty creepy at times, but very, very good. I have the hardback version here. You have your front cover. This one's tactile, which I really like. You have your back cover. You have your summary on the inside of the front cover here, as well as information about the author and her other books in the Hunger Games series. I absolutely loved this book. Like I said, I highly recommend. I hope you enjoy it as well because it was so, so well written. Suzanne Collins is a genius.
Sorry, but this is trash. This is ink. I was opening the book to see how many chapters there were, and I saw ink all over one of the pages. It was right here. There's ink all over the paper. There's ink right here. Really dark ink right here, all over this page. There's 2 dots right there. I'm returning this. This is trash. Sorry, but...
So here we have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It is, let's see how many pages. 515. I think the paper quality is decent. There's a little show through, but it's not bad at all. Yeah, it's a good book. I liked it. You know, if you like The Hungry Games, you'll like it. It's interesting. It definitely goes into snow. And brings up a lot of questions as to why he might have some secret hatred towards Katniss.
Customers find the book phenomenal, enjoyable, and brilliant. They describe the story as enthralling and provide some nice Hunger Games backstory. Readers praise the writing quality as skillful and humanized. They say the book is thought-provoking and offers unique insight into early days of the games. However, some find the pacing slow and dry. Opinions differ on whether the book is enthralling or not. 4.5 stars. Amazon delivered my copy early, so I'm going to do a spoiler-free review, and then a spoilery one. Pardon if this winds up sounding like an English paper. I have thought so much on the morals and questions in this book that I feel like I should have read this in school. Note: I'm writing this review with the express belief that you, reader, have at least read the book description. Otherwise, why are you reading this review? I want to start this off by saying 2 things. 1, this is not a hero story. Snow is never once, in my opinion, shown to be a hero in what we modern folks would call a hero. He's no Luke Skywalker or redeemed villain. This isn't some sob backstory to explain why the bad guy is bad. This is yet another set of layers to the onion that is Snow. Second, this book is dark. It's been a minute since I read the original trilogy, but I swear it wasn't quite as graphic as this book was. Cannibalism is mentioned, and it's shown / talked about that someone sawed the leg off a dead woman and ran off with it. One character is killed then hung on a hook and paraded. Another is also gruesomely displayed after their death. Several characters are dragged through processions to prove a point. Another character is hung from 2 large poles and left to basically die in the sun. Multiple accounts of vomiting/poison throughout, and a general unpleasantness at the lack of regard for human life. Non-spoilery review. This book makes you think. A lot. It makes you question things and wonder if maybe Snow is right, he's not. But it's written in such a way that he's not a villain. Donald Sutherland in an interview made a great point in saying that Snow isn't a villain. He's just a ruthless man doing what he thinks is right to keep his home and country in one piece. He does it so well. And he doesn't think he's a bad person. He thinks it's the only way society can survive. And whether you think he's right or wrong, he doesn't think he's bad. He likes himself. This should be the mantra for this book. Snow is a conflicting, flawed human. In our society, he's evil, a sociopath, or a psychopath. He's a murderer and a killer.
He's a bad guy.
In his world, he's one of the masses. He simply lives as he's been raised to, with a mentality that has been ingrained in him since the war between the districts and the capital. He's simply more ruthless than most, and has the guts to make what he considers the hard decisions. Regardless of the other characters in this, they're all props to his story, which fits well with the Snow we know from the Hunger Games. Everyone is second stage to Snow and his life. This is his evolution from being a child to a man, to becoming the Snow we know and love/hate. I definitely don't think this book is for everyone. I'm sitting here with my mom breathing down my neck because she can't wait to read it, and I don't think she'll like it at all, and she's a diehard THG trilogy fan.
Why?
Because not everyone likes to read depressing books. There's no redemption in this. There's no saving someone from themselves. This is the fall, stumble, plummet into being a not great person, and embracing it fully. So take that as you will. Full spoilers below about everything. P.S. This is a standalone. Spoilers below. Okay, so I was worried about this book when I read the first chapter sample and it got announced that Snow would be training the District 12 girl. I thought, oh crap, it's gonna be a cliché YA. It's gonna have a stupid romance that undercuts the whole plot and makes him a sap. And yeah, it did that, and up until the last 50 pages I was teetering on a 3 to 3.5 stars. And then oh boy, the end. Lucy Gray was a sweet girl, but she felt off since the beginning. I still can't fully put my finger on it, but her and Snow's relationship felt so I/I the entirety of the book. The red flags went up repeatedly every time he made comments about how she was his, and even so far as to say she was his property, and that's all kinds of wrong. And even though their romance was cute and fluffy, it felt bad, tainted. You knew something was going to happen. It always does in these villain backstories. Usually the whole reason the villain is bad is because the love interest gets brutally killed, and then they're like, welp, guess I'll just be evil. Not in this book. Snow constantly struggles with morality and right and wrong throughout this. Should he turn in his friend to the capital because they're colluding with rebels and could tear down the flawed infrastructure? Or should he turn a blind eye and let his friend do his own thing? Is the Hunger Games wrong or good? Is it wrong to view the district people as second-class humans?
And so on.
This book broaches the topic of racism in very broad terms with the whole district/capital thing. You've always known there was a divide between them, but in this, you really see how much the capital looks down on the districts, and you can easily see how that morphs into such a hatred and distaste by the time Katniss first enters the Hunger Games. But I digress. Snow struggles with morality, but he's flawed and very, very imperfect. He rationalizes every death he takes as self-defense or some other reason when really he's just murdered someone because it's inconvenient for him. He kills, or at least removes her from the picture. It's ambiguous. Lucy Gray in the end because she's a loose end and too free. He does it. Not someone else, not some freak accident. He chooses to do it, and by the time it happens, you already know what direction he's headed in, so it's not quite another nail in the coffin. It fully feels like him tying up loose ends so he can go do whatever he wants. All the nods to THG characters and names was cool. You also had a lot of the Great Gatsby vibes in the old money versus new money mentality that a lot of the capital had with district people who gained a fortune and bought their way into the capital life. They're looked down upon by the old families and viewed as trash. You saw a lot of the evolution in the Hunger Games, and you can see how it begins to change and grow into what Katniss and Peeta suffered through. You see how it begins to change from a simple punishment to a sport and a holiday, with the growing encouragement that it should be a normal and good thing. You also see a side of the Capitol you most definitely did not see in the trilogy suffering. A lot of the book shows Snow struggling with having been a small child living through the dark days and the war. He was 8 when the Capitol won, and even then it was hard. You learn about the hell the Capitol lived through as they were besieged by the district's army and forced to ration, starvation, and cannibalism. It's a hard picture, and it's so blatantly told. Collins didn't hold back any punches in this. I never felt like what was done was for shock and awe for the reader, but it was definitely that for the story, and it made sense. Regardless of the Capitol not being at war with the districts anymore, the tensions were still so high that it makes sense for the Capitol to overreact in their retaliation of events. So when one mentor gets killed by her tribute, they shoot the tribute and parade her body around on a hook at the mentor's funeral. It's disgusting, debasing, and shows how much the Capitol views the districts as nothing more than rodents or livestock. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Go read it yourself. It's a hard read, a heavy read, but it was very, very enjoyable.